So film emulation is something that I've kind of been intrigued by, just in terms of the whole color grading process. So when Dehancer asked me to review their software, I was intrigued and I said yes, but of course in no way will it affect my opinions on the actual product itself. So you'll get a full honest review from me. So let's get right into the review. So I have Dehancer loaded up for Davinci Resolve, and of course I have this video of my Jeep right here, and I have everything already set for it the way I like it, but I'm going to go ahead and reset everything. Just going to go ahead and reset the node, and I'm going to show you exactly how I do this process. So I'm just searching up for Dehancer in the library for the film emulation category, and I put on my second layer. As you can see, it doesn't look great right now because you have to set everything up, but we got lots of different options right here. We have source, so we have many different color spaces. And of course, before we actually get into this actual color grading, I'm just going to show you what I have in terms of the project settings. I have color management set to Davinci YRGB color managed, and the actual wide gamut intermediate color processing mode selected, so we have a full complete dynamic range with our image, so we don't really have to do anything in the Blackmagic raw settings. I mean, of course we can, but we don't really have to. So I have everything in the Blackmagic raw settings already set. That's already good to go. So let's just go ahead and select our camera, because we have an option down here to choose our camera. We can go to vendor, which is going to be, of course, the brand, Blackmagic Design, Blackmagic 4K, and then film as our dynamic range setting. And we have a lot of different options here. We have exposure compensation, all this stuff. I don't really do that much. I'm going to leave the film setting. We have a lot of film stocks, but I'm going to leave it to the default Kodak Vision 3 250D right now. So down here in the film grain, I'm going to turn this off. Two reasons. One, I'm not a huge fan of film grain, although this is film emulation. I know it might be a sin to not have film grain on. If you want to turn it back on, you can do that. Of course, I turn it off mainly also just because it's a lot smoother when it comes to playback, so you don't have any problems with just editing in general, but you can always turn it back on afterwards. The print determines a lot of the look as well. You can go to log, print film. I go to Kodak Endura glossy paper because I think it has the most dynamic range and the best, most filmy look, in my opinion. And of course, we can play with exposure here. We can play with tonal contrast here, color density, which doesn't seem to do all that much. And then of course your saturation from 0 to 100. And then we can also expand our dynamic range. We can get more highlight information right here. The black point can be adjusted. And of course, the color mode can go to Luma for a reason that I'm not even sure why, but you can do that if that's important to you. And the compression also you can adjust. And if I wanted to go further, I could go down to here to halation and bloom if I want to make it more stylized and, you know, filmy. But I'm not going to do that for this particular shot. Now, the stock of film does determine the look by a lot. Night, I usually go with Portra 400, and which is set to right now. And of course, it's not working great right now because it's not really a daylight balanced film, at least not really good at that. I like this Lomachrome Metropolitan film. I think it has a good kind of low saturation look. Kodak Vision 3 50D is what I'm going to go for this shot because it has a good daylight balanced look. I just think it looks good. And as you can see here, so yes, this is the edit I have going on here. You can see the difference right here on the actual shot. We can see the difference that it makes. Now we are balanced for a blue setting right here, so I am going to just play with the temperature. We can make it a lot warmer if we wanted to. For this shot, I think the blue works because it is mostly cloudy, and we can also adjust the tint if desired. So as you can see, that's the difference, but I'm going to keep set it to blue. I'm going to do a different shot now, and another thing is that we can just go ahead and make some nodes, Alt S, and I just put Dehancer usually in the middle. Of course, you can copy and paste your grading, but I'm going to go and do it from scratch. Of course, I did all the camera settings real quick. So film. Yeah, now you can see we got great contrast. I'm going to go back to the Kodak Vision 3 50D, and I'm also going to select it to the glossy paper and then turn the film grain off. Now, as you can see right here, we have a very green saturated look. So we can fix that a little bit. We can adjust the tint. We can also adjust the saturation down here at the print setting, which I quite like. You can make it full on grayscale or lower end if you want a apocalyptic look, or you can just crank it up to full if you want that good sunset look. Tonal contrast I quite like because it works better than just normal contrast in my opinion. And overall, I think this is a very beautiful shot. Now, I am gonna play with the film grain because I know people are going to be wanting that. This is a little bit too much film grain in my opinion. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lower the amount to maybe about 7, so it's a lot less film grain. You can increase the film resolution if you want the grain to be a bit more defined and maybe smaller. And of course, the film grain, you can adjust all kinds of things. The size is also really low right now. It's at the lowest setting. You can adjust the green in the shadows and the mid-tones. So here we got a pretty good image in my opinion with the film grain. I think it looks pretty good. I'm just kind of playing with it. It's not really crazy in terms of what I'm doing here, but I'm also gonna just turn it back off. I quite like the look of a film color palette on a grain-free image, on a very clean image. That's just my preference. But of course, this is a fantastic tool with film grain if that is your thing. This is another shot I got going on here. This is an airboat. And of course, I already graded this, as you can kind of see. There is one flaw, in my opinion, with this software that I don't like. So here's what I'm gonna do. I am going to copy this grade from the Jeep shot. Copy that. I'm going to remove everything on that shot from the sunset shot, paste it on the sunset shot. Now ignore the color. I'm just going to go ahead and play it to the shots over here. And then I'm gonna switch the film stock midway through. And as you can see, what that does is it sets a keyframe. I really don't like that feature. This keyframe right here just appears, and I didn't know what this was when I first started playing with this software. I'm like, why the heck is it changing the film stock midway through the shot? And it turns out it just sets a keyframe, as you can see down here on the bottom right. It sets a keyframe instead. So what you can do is you can try to delete the keyframe. It's not really gonna work. I just have to set it to the point where the shot begins. And then the keyframe will be played back at the beginning of the shot to the point where the keyframe is not noticeable because it's played at the beginning of the shot. But yeah, that's not my favorite. And I wish it was not like that by default. I'm not sure if you can set it like that by default or not, but either way, that's just something to keep in mind. I do love the amount of film stocks you have. But yeah, you have a lot of film stocks here to choose from, depending on your lighting and your color. I think it is overall, yeah, see the keyframe happened again here, and I don't like that at all. I really wish that wasn't that way. There is one thing that I want to bring up, and this footage is from my Panasonic G7, which I actually just sold, and I'm getting a new camera, and I probably might review that, the new camera I'm getting. But overall, this footage is very hard to grade because it is an 8-bit codec. It is very difficult to, I guess, grade well. And overall, it could use a lot of loving. So really what I'm going to do here is this Panasonic. So I just put the Dehancer plugin on. Rec 709 is what I'm going to keep it on because it's basically what it is. Portra 400 is a good night stock for me. Profile, codec glossy paper. Turn the film grain off. The image is plenty grainy without it. And as you can see, it already looks pretty good. This image is hard to grade with a normal LUT. And this just makes it a piece of cake. So for all of you with 8-bit 420 cameras that might be filming in low light or challenging conditions, this software is actually really good for that. As you can see, it can increase the dynamic range as well if you wanted to, as I did do the white point and the black point, and you can just overall get a nice clean image from this software from here. Overall, I am impressed with this software for what it is. So I want to definitely give a shout out to Dehancer. Thank you for offering the software to me and the review, of course. I definitely like talking about software like this and how it can change your workflow, because workflow and how speedy it is in the terms of your production and what you're doing, whether it's freelance or narrative or whatever you're doing, it is important to have a nice intuitive workflow so you can get your shots done fast, especially when you're going into the business filmmaking world, kind of like I am, and especially with all the car shoots that I do, and it's important to me that I get stuff out quickly, and this does get my stuff out quickly. So that is my thoughts and review on Dehancer. And yeah, I think it's a really lovely piece of software. And that's it for today, and I will see you in the next video.